Hi, my lovely unfilters. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we will discuss the AICE Media Studies question, how did your production skills develop throughout this project? We will discuss this question in different parts. Before we get started, let's take a second to like, share, comment, and subscribe so that we can get into more bangers. Into our first part, how we came to be a group. The first answer is very short and sweet. I knew Kendra from last year in chemistry. So it was easy for us to talk to each other, while Natalie and Caitlin were the only other two seniors in our class that Kendra knew. So essentially a common link of Kendra being the one to establish our group. Making us a group allowed for us to share our tasks more equally and not feel overwhelmed by our work tasks. We decided that Kendra would be our filmmaker since she hasn't had a time to really record before this, and that Caitlin would be the one whom lost her mother because it would be filmed at her house. That left me and Natalie to be the ones to be the girls' friends. We decided we all would participating in editing our film. We were first going to do our film during fall break since that's a lot of time, but then things came up, so we had to do our film on the 22nd since it was more convenient for us. Our next part helps to understand what I knew at first before doing this film, as well as the genre conventions that come with making films. At first, I thought that filmmaking was a series of just retaking of shots at different angles until the director feels satisfied with that scene, and they repeat the process for each single scene. This is true to a certain extent, but the angles are specifically chosen for a matter of reasons, such as the use of low angle shot is used to highlight the importance of a scene or give a character power. This information also included learning about mise-en-scene, sound, lighting, and editing, all being their own big factors in film in their own way. I also had no idea whatsoever that genres had their own conventions that are associated with them. Of course, I knew when I watch horror movies, I'm going to expect jump scares, and romance movies are going to have moments where the characters are away from each other. But I truly didn't know the extent these scenes really went into depth. By researching and looking through many different websites, I learned that certain conventions needed to be seen in a film for audience to recognize what type of film they are inclining their time to see. For my film, I learned that fantasy films usually include emotional connections between the characters and the audience members, which helps to make the film be more memorable. Also, the use of an omniscient score in my film helps to create suspense of what the character went through in that moment. This is familiar with the use of drama films. We eventually decided to base our film on the genres fantasy, drama, and action. The use of these genres with all of their different conventions allow for us to have a lot of with what we chose to do in our film. The use of learning about filmmaking and genre conventions helped me to think about how much work and thought goes into each film that is created, and how no matter what we may do, we will always be inspired by another film when creating our own. Next part we will discuss is planning our film through the use of our storyboard. This was a very essential part of our film because it created the blueprint for what we would actually be doing during the recording of the film by going scene by scene. Our storyboard included talking about the visuals, the camera angles, the movement, the sound, the lighting, the mise-en-scene, and transitions. Through the use of our storyboard, being very detailed when it actually came to making our film, it was easier for us to get into action and get it done while being more precise about the purpose of each of our movements and reactions. We were a little frustrated when first creating our storyboard because we had to do a lot of thinking for a film, especially me. We haven't even created. getting down and content, getting down content, it became more easier for us to do through the use of us working together to decide what scenes that would look best and be better understood in a certain order, such as the use of flashbacks, then going back to the current past to show that haunting of the past continuously creeping into the present. Us working together while doing it helped to continuously build up my communication skills with others while also working on my organization and planning skills. Now let's get into actually producing our film. This is where my filmmaking skills actually started to develop more. While filming, we did do the camera angles that we discussed in our storyboard, but we also thought to do other angles that we could look at and choose from when it was time to start editing. For an example, in our storyboard we have the girls in the frame of the closet arguing about opening the film using a low angle shot. But we also decided to film a version of the scene using a mid shot. The use of these two angles helped to distribute the power depending on which angle we chose. With each shot that we used, the more we came to cherish what we created, and the more we started to bond and understand each other. The use of us changing the amount of lighting we had at a certain point was very important when we were filming due to understanding the context of the girl Caitlin going to school and coming home from high school. The sun had to be high enough for the sun to be shining in. The use of working together continuously straightened up my collaboration skills with others as well as my communication skills. We had to work with each other to film each scene using different angles and make sure that each moment had a shared opinion on it. After filming our film, it then came time to start reviewing our clips and editing it to create our film product. Our editing was probably the longest part of our filmmaking process. Our editing process first included choosing which sequence of clips looked more accurately together, and then deciding finding the perfect sounds and imagery we needed for those certain scenes. For example, we thought it would be best during the flashback to change the color of the scene to a very dark color such as gray to help illuminate the part of this being from the past. The use of the heartbeat being used was controversial in my group, with me being more towards the ringing sound being heard through the entire flashback scene and getting louder with each second that passed, while others were more inclined to the heartbeat being the only thing there. We compromised and used both. With each clip that we synchronized together, we had to continuously make sure that we were all perfectly together so that there were no time gaps between the two clips where nothing was shown that wasn't supposed to be seen or no audio was heard when it wasn't supposed to be heard. This part constantly evolved my problem solving skills because we wanted to use our editing app CapCut to allow for us to all do the editing on our own devices but still be connected with each other. But it wouldn't allow it. For some reason, it wouldn't allow us. Therefore, we had to constantly use class time to edit on one singular device. We then showed our film to the class, which involved a lot of critique on our film. Our feedback included taking out the scene of the girls discussing a conversation that involves school senior things, fade to white for transition to memories, make sure the music stays on till she clicks off the music, and more things. With each criticism that was given, I felt a mixture of dejection and embarrassment. I believed that my film was good, but others saw it differently than I did, which brought up those emotions. This criticism, however, was taken into consideration when we started re-editing our film. We also decided to change moments in our film that we agreed would better suit these changes that were discussed. These included adding a clip to show the picture falling to reveal that the mother was the one that was dying. It also included making sure the characters don't directly look into the camera, and refilming the scene when the girls come into the room to not show the sweater in the book used in a previous scene. We also created our own logos to fit our film. We created our logo using a site that creates text into actual video called Held UE. This site allowed for us to have a certain amount of times we can use it before we had to pay. This resulted in us being very specific about the prompts we gave the site. We wanted to incorporate the use of a genie, but also wanted to incorporate us as individuals. This resulted in us having a genie lamp for our genre-based logo, and then having our initials on our corporate-based logo to show us as individuals and us as a team. Overall, this project helped me to understand the work that it takes to create a film. It also enhanced my communication skills, organization skills, filming skills, and editing skills. At first, I was very limited on my experience. Very limited. And I was also stuck between on letting everyone get their own ideas shown, but also wanting my ideas to be shown in a way. Through this process, I learned that both can be shown without limiting the opinion of each other as a group. In the end, I learned that all things in filmmaking are intentional and should be appreciated by being seen. I thank you again, my unfilters, by tuning in. See you in the next video. Bye bye.